I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded today. Also pay respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who may be listening today. This is Melanated in Melbourne, a podcast designed to give an insightful look into the Australian lifestyle from the lens of two Black American besties. Welcome back, Mel Nation. I'm Ri'chard.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is Melanated in Melbourne.
Melanated in Melbourne.
Oh, you've got your voice back.
She's back.
Look at that.
I was testing it out. Listen, because if it would have sounded like dust, I would have been like, cut it.
No, we'll just. I literally have clips of you singing that, so I'll just like and schnurp. So anytime you're like, you know what, I don't like that one. Well, I'm going to put you in every single time. It doesn't really matter. But today we have a very, very special guest. Actually, our resident celebrity, probably the most famous person I know in Melbourne.
100%.
We have Swoop Luke in the studio.
Hooray! Welcome,
Hey,
Lukey.
thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be chatting to you guys.
Of course, when we started the podcast, we were given the highs and lows and just talking about Australia, specifically Melbourne. And there's nothing more Melbourne than footy. And it's something we have not talked about yet. 100%. It is an absolute phenomenon. And we're like, how can we do this? Who do we know? And then we racked our brains. We're like, you know what? Actually, did we talk about it earlier this season or last season? We're like, white people are okay. It's okay to be white. We're going to remind everyone it's okay to be white. And we decided the podcast, if there was an expert in the field.
Oh, we said we were going to have our first white person.
Nicole's like, where are you going? She's like, I don't understand.
That's right. So, we said we were going to have our first white person on. Luke, congratulations.
Yeah, you are our first white person on the show.
Thank you.
That deserves but not too much. No, I'm kidding.
It's like, again, it's okay, but it's not great.
Too much.
Yeah, it's like, stay in your lane. But we're so happy to have you. And before we hop right into it, because footy is all-encompassing, it's a very large topic. One of the things I wanted to talk about is a song that just dropped, and I am absolutely gagged over it. It is Guess, the remix of Billie Eilish. Nicole just heard it first time in the studio. Luke has heard it already.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It came out on National Girlfriend's Day. The girlies are doing it for the pop summer, spring, fall, soon
Olympics.
to be Olympics. Shout out to Simone Biles. The U.S. girls, like, they're doing all the shit.
Shout out to all the Aussie girls actually winning the medals because ain't no men.
Yeah.
None of the male Aussies have won. I don't know what the fuck they've been doing the past 4 years. Drinking a beer, watching the footy,
Honestly.
touching their
Footy.
dicks.
It's all the footy.
Women are putting it on their backs. Well, all women except for Taylor Swift.
Ooh.
And I wanted to talk about it.
Wait, what? This hard left turn.
Ooh, okay.
No, it's because Swoop Luke is also a Swiftie, if I'm not
Hardcore
mistaken.
Not mistaken.
So how do you feel about the rumors that Taylor likes to drop new versions of her Twisted Poets as soon as another pop girlie has an album on the #1 charts?
Yeah, I saw that and I've heard about it, and then I was like, oh, that can't be like. It must just be a coincidence. But then I saw that she came out with, I think it was the single I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, with just the normal song that was on the album and then the instrumental version. I'm like, who's using this instrumental version? Why did you have to do this?
Yeah.
I can't bop to this.
Yeah.
So I think, very, very conniving in a way, but stepping on other women to get ahead.
I think it's very interesting only because, I'm sure you have an opinion as well.
I do. I think the game is the game. I think
That's
it's
true
pretty
as well.
good strategy. I think she's just like, you know what, she always wants to stay in the mix. And if you want to outperform Taylor, you just gotta just make bops, you know? Yeah. It is what it is. I get the strategy.
Oh, I absolutely get the strategy. And I wanted to say that it's very similar to someone else that you used to love.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, 100%. Nicki would always do the thing where she would not necessarily collaborate on a new song with somebody. She'll wait till like the song is like taking off and like approaching like #1 or is just getting really good spins. And then all of a sudden she wants to like, grace the remix with her presence. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I can, to me, the features hit. So I'm like, I can't even be too mad at it. I think when it comes to the music industry, that's just really what it is. It's like you're only as popular as you are like current kind of thing. And you always have to be inserting yourself in the conversation. Yeah, that Taylor train don't stop.
Yeah, and I understand it. Like I get it, and I get what you're saying. But just add a little bit more to it.
True.
If you're gonna do a single, don't give me an instrumental. Give me an acoustic, which is cool.
Fair.
And give me a remix. Just give me a dance remix.
Yeah.
At least
Fair.
change it up a little bit. But you're right. The game is the game.
The
And the
game
music
is the
industry
game,
is
baby.
crazy. So
I-
gotta do what you got to do.
I'm going to steal a bit of both of your answers because I have a different feeling about this. Again, I am a reformed Swiftie, a retired Swiftie. It's been well documented. But in her early days, she was very much like girl power, bringing all the girls in. And like when she had her Bad Bloods issue with
Yes.
Katy Perry and she brought all these other girls on, she's like, look at us girls together. You're mean to me. You're not a good girl. And then they became friends again. But she would also be friend like Lord and bring all these girls in, bring Ice Spice. And then as soon as she was like, I'm going to redo these things and not let anyone else have the spotlight is what I thought was weird. Because then it's not new music. Like when Nicki did it, she added a new verse. There was new things to it. This guest version, like Charlie XCX, I think is basically like the little sister trying to fight back in my eyes. She was like doing the remix with Lorde, doing a remix to Billie Eilish. And like there's all these little things because Charlie is currently dating a member of the 1975.
Yep.
And Taylor used to also be dating someone,
Maddie Healy.
Matt Healy. Yep. And the thing is, in one of Charlie's songs, she was like, I don't want to see you backstage at one of my boyfriend's shows.
Yep.
So Charlie is actively there going head to head. Like it's not an official beef, but I think this song itself kind of is. Because at the end of that song, they're like, you want to guess what me and Billy are texting about. You want to get the password. You want to find out what these parties are. Yeah. And they're just like, oh, are we about to get a little bit of a pop girly beef? Which,
I love it.
I love it. Only because I'm going to blast this song to number one myself. Like I know for a fact I'm going to make it happen. And I'm like, let's see what Taylor drops next. Because again, it's dropped 2 days ago. Taylor's not responded yet. But watch her be like, I'm going to re-release my original album now. Like how
Sure
many?
enough, and get
how
the
many?
spins.
Yeah, and that's the
Is that the
rumor
last
going
one?
around. That Reputation is coming out soon. The Taylor's version of Reputation. There's a rumor that it's coming out really soon.
What other versions are left?
So the only thing left to take back is her name and her reputation. So Taylor Swift's the original and Reputation.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Expect it soon, I guess. Now.
I love
Honestly.
it. I love art beef. Like I love it. I think like art is so good when like you have like a rival, you have to like push yourself.
Yeah.
I love it. I eat it up. Like I'm all for the rap beef, so I'm like, go ahead, let there be pop beef. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to dance it out.
And the most recent one is Kendrick and Drake, right?
Correct, exactly.
and
that was a burial.
But
That
yeah,
was
but
a
burial.
Drake has not responded.
He's just gone back in.
He has just gone back into whatever preschool he's hiding behind, and just he's hiding himself in the Play-Doh, hiding himself in the Play-Doh, behind the
I
finger
think
paint.
The worst thing that ever happened was him losing that beef like 3 times, and then his house got flooded in those torrential rains, and then he posted about it.
No, that's
No,
not.
literally, like Toronto was flooded a couple weeks ago, and he posted it, and like for some reason, like Al Jazeera, I follow a bunch of newscasts, and like Drake's house is flooded. I'm like, girl, people are dying. Like, what about the people who can't afford to replace these things? And he's like, my house. I'm like, sir, you have 7 of those.
Yeah.
Like, respectfully, you have 7 of them.
I'd be happy to start a conspiracy that he flooded the house himself. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Drake paid the rain.
He needed some sympathy. My house is flooded right now. Should have bought some sandbags. I can just see it. He's trying to write something back, but oh well, let there be beef.
Let there be beef. I love that. That's probably the episode. That's probably the episode name. Let there be beef.
Yes.
But again, thank you so much for coming to the podcast, Luke. We're very grateful to have you.
Yeah.
One of the things we usually do is we just kind of have someone give their origin story, who they are, because you are born and raised Aussie. Give your background and how you got into footy, and we'll kind of just go from there.
Yeah, do you want to speak on behalf of all white people and just
Oh, yes. You were the first one in the show, so.
yeah.
Should I apologise for everything that we've done so far? Oh God, there's so much pressure. So just first off, sorry for everything. And so secondly, with the football. So born and raised in Melbourne. My background is European, so I'm Maltese. So I didn't come from a big footballing family at all. So I was sort of the first generation to sort of follow football, and that's just because of primary school. So friends in primary school, and then sort of getting into it, finding a team. If you're not from a footballing family, it's kind of just like, who are you hanging out with? What are the popular kids following?
Yeah.
And it actually was Carlton for a little bit. And I've said this a couple of times.
What? What?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
That is shocking.
Yeah, so I think for a couple of months in like maybe grade 3, I think it was Carlton for a little bit, and then I found the light. the black and white light.
Yeah.
And then it's been Collingwood ever since. Then it's been Collingwood ever since. And yeah, we talk about sport as like a community and a family, and that's exactly what it is. You know, you find friends going to football. Sometimes if you're getting like reserve seats, I've sat next to people that have been going to the footy for like 30 years in the same seat, so they know everyone there, but they might not interact with them outside of football. And it's just like, you know, 2 or 3 hours where you can just let all your worries go, yell at an umpire, respectfully.
I'm respectfully yelling at you.
That's in one of my notes.
Okay.
How much you're able to just yell and abuse the people on the field. It is unreal. It is unreal. But I guess I also understand why you would have had that dark period. We can call it the dark period. Of you going into Carlton, because if you think back to, because that was in the 90s, yeah? And Carlton, they were
big.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they were big then. So I understand.
Yeah.
If you're like a little kid today, you'd probably either be like a Collingwood fan, maybe you were a Tigers fan.
Yep.
Yeah, the Tigers, they were doing it pretty well like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I get that.
So exactly right. Yeah, then my auntie took me to my first football game, and yeah, it kind of just went on from there, and it's been a ride ever since. I've seen 2 premierships or championships, whatever you want to call them.
Cool.
So that's been fun. Went to my first grand final last year with my dad. So my dad's my footballing buddy, so we do everything football related together, which is really fun. And yeah, and then like about 5 years ago, I watch a lot of the soccer and stuff, so a lot of EPL, and there's a lot of like fan cam TVs and stuff like that to do with the soccer and the NBA and stuff. And I thought, I've never seen anything done for the AFL before, or just football in general. So I thought, cool, this is a little niche market that I'll start. Like I was like, oh my God, this is a great idea. I'm going to start it. So then I sort of started doing it as a sort of therapy, because I was one of those people that was like, okay, Collingwood play on a Friday, we lose by 30 points. I'm just shitty for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me. Mum comes up to me and goes, it's just a game. It's like, not really. Like, Mum, I love you and thank you for the pasta, but it's not just a game to me, you know. So it got to the point where nobody was listening to my rant. So I thought, okay, cool. They were getting sick of me. So I thought, let me talk to a camera, even if I had one viewer. It was never about getting sort of big, or it was just about literally just therapy. Just
love
talking
that.
to a mirror, you know. So that was 5 years ago, so 2019, and that was mainly because in 2018 we played off in the grand final. We were 5 goals up. We lose by...
That's right. Was that West Coast?
West Coast, yeah.
That's
so
right.
we lose by 5 points with the
right.
last kick of the game sort of thing. And it just broke my heart. I remember going back home after that grand final, getting into bed, ordering... This is so funny because it's so vivid. Ordering a double quarter pounder with a chicken patty inside it, large chips, large strawberry thick shake, and just eating it in bed crying.
Yeah.
The low.
Yeah.
And I thought, something has to change. Something has to change.
I get that.
Yeah, and then it sort of took off mainly in COVID when we didn't have football.
That's right.
yeah,
in the
so-
audience, and there was no crowds.
Yes, I think at one point AFL was the only sport playing in the world, except for like marble racing on TikTok. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're very close. Very close. to it.
Marble racing. Go blue.
Go cat eye.
oh man, what a time to be alive.
Go
But yeah,
banana.
it took off during COVID, where people were just sort of wanting that community. So I just kept putting
Something.
content, and it's hard when there's no football games going to put content out. But you sort of push through, and now I don't want to use them paying dividends, but it helps. Like going to the football, people sort of recognize you. They come up,
you get
they high
swooped.
five you. I get swooped. But it's really fun. Like I'll stop doing it when I don't enjoy it. It's a pain. Like working full time, doing this on the side, 2-hour commute from work to home, and then recording videos and stuff. So it's a labor. Was it labor of love?
Labor
Labor
of
of love.
love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good fun.
Yeah, it's so funny how you mentioned that whole, like, what that loss felt like and everything, because I think, if anything, if you really were to put it in, like, human terms, I feel like sports is like a bad boyfriend. It's like you always, like, he's, like, only really good, like, maybe 20% of the time. And then 80% of the time is absolute heartache, heartbreak,
100%.
anger, anguish, ruins your whole weekend, your whole mood's fucked up.
Yeah.
And you're just like, girl, why you get back together? But no, you don't understand. He said he's going to change. He's going to try a new format next week. He's going to up the defense. It's like, girl, what are you doing? It's like, no, my man can change. My man can change. And it's just like, okay. But then they still get upset.
Yeah.
That's
It's
my man.
just-
I'm gonna stick beside him.
For
I'm gonna stick
real.
beside him. This
For
man right here,
real.
I'm gonna stick
For
beside
real.
him.
Especially when it comes to footy, because sports are big in America. It's very much like a football nation, baseball nation, like all the different sports you can imagine are there, and they have like their really deep fandoms. However, footy here, sorry, sidebar to the sidebar. I love that they call it footy here, then they call whatever the other game is soccer. I love it. I love it. Because everywhere else around the world,
football.
that's football.
Yeah.
But here they call it soccer, and I'm like, yes, love it. Look it up. But here, footy is tribal. It
It
goes really, really deep, and it goes back really long. Dare I say there was footy longer than Australia's been an actual nation?
Yeah, so the first sort of recorded games, I think, was around the 1850s.
Yeah.
So that was very much like convict era.
Mm-hmm.
And
Music.
Got me locked up.
yeah, and before that, it sort of took its roots from, I'm probably going to butcher the name, Mangrook, which is a First Nation football adjacent game where I'm pretty sure it's that the Mangrook is the ball made out of, it's like made out of possum skin or
I knew
something.
it. I
or
knew it was
something
going to
like
be.
that.
Yeah,
So
that
it's,
makes sense.
so it's adjacent to that. So 1850s, convicts, Mangrook, and English rugby and all that sort of stuff. So that's the hybrid. But yeah, so it's been going for years.
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 Like
I
100 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions as well, because like obviously we know what AFL footy is now, but that's why we've been here. But like, what's the main difference between footy, rugby,
Yep.
and American football?
So I like to think of it as a bit of a hybrid. So I guess the main difference between our footy and American football is no pads, no helmets, just skin on
Yes.
skin, short
And
shorts and
Short shorts
singlets.
thick
and
thighs,
Yeah.
thick,
Tank
thick
tops or-
thighs.
Yes.
Sorry, I got distracted. What happened? Right.
And so the other sort of difference between like rugby and stuff. So rugby and the NFL are very much stop start. So it's very
Very.
much grab the ball, tackle, and you're pretty much done. You know you got downs and tries and stuff like that. With the AFL or with Australian rules, it's very flowy. Like it's kind of like basketball in the sense that it's like box to box, like and kind of like soccer as well.
100%
you know what I mean?
agree,
So
because
it's
they run
quick.
the entire
Yes.
length of
Yeah.
the goddamn oval.
Yeah, and speaking of the length, so the
Oh!
NFL
Sorry,
And girth?
sorry.
and the I was just about
Yeah.
to get into it. Well, the length, it's about 60 meters wider than an NFL ground, so 30
Wow.
meters on each side. And girth-wise, it's probably about 40 meters on each side. So
Wow.
the end-to-end, it's about 150 meters end-to-end, the MCG. So
Oh, wow.
I don't know what that is I don't know the conversion rate in miles, but
We don't need it. It's way bigger than
Well,
like two football fields like
pretty
laid
much.
across each
Yeah.
other with some additional. So they're running across like the entire field, the whole oval, as if it was like a soccer pitch.
yeah.
But then there's like 18 members.
Yep, of each team
Of
on the
each team,
ground.
so there's 36 people on the field
Yeah.
at the same
And
time.
these are big boys. These are big boys.
Yeah.
Thickums. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
If you didn't say it, I was gonna. Wait, so you said how many meters? Because a meter is roughly 3 feet. Roughly.
yeah,
Like,
so it's 150 meters wide thereabouts, give or take.
it's like 450. I mean, obviously, there's like an extra 3 inches, I think, in a meter. It's 3 feet and 3 inches, but
Yeah.
roughly 450 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's these guys are running like anywhere between 14 and 17 kilometers a game.
It's
So
unreal.
it's crazy.
Don't sign me up for cardio.
It's unreal. Like, but there, it's like, yeah, because it's like a bit of soccer in that regard of that they're running like the entire length of it. There are so many people on the field, so it's really team-based sport. I like the comparison to basketball because it's like that kind of continuous
Yes.
kind of thing. But then it also has a little bit of wrestling and grappling in it
Yeah.
because like you go down and then like I guess that could maybe be like a scrum, like a
Yeah.
little bit. It could be
Yeah.
a little bit of that.
And that's why it's like it's a hybrid of so many games. And I guess that takes
Yeah.
it from rugby back in, the 1800s where it is, it does start and stop a little bit, but
Yeah.
mainly it's sort of flowing and it doesn't do it justice just sort of talking about it. You have to, jump
Really
on YouTube,
immerse
go
yourself.
to like AFL highlights, best hits. These guys are just getting tackled and concussed and coming back on, blood
No
there's
helmets.
No
helmet. And
helmets,
that's
No
no
helmets,
nothing.
not even a sponge taped to their forehead, Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
not a thing.
No, like, and that's one of the things that because like Luke took one of my first games. Much like you, I started with a different team because I came here in 2017. I knew what was happening around me, but I'm like, I don't care. Like I do not care. But I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with a friend who was a Melbourne supporter, and he was like, "Oh, you gotta beat Melbourne." I'm like, okay. So I was a Melbourne supporter for like 2 years, and like the very first year I picked them, they won the grand final, and I'm like, oh, lucky charm. But then I was just like, I've never actually been to a game. I didn't know any of the rules. And then Luke's like, hey, come to a game. And I'm like, okay. And I'm just sitting next to him, like everyone's freaking out. And I'm like, sir, what's happening there? What are all these sticks for? What's going on? And like you explaining all these rules to me, and like actually started to care about the game. And then the first year that I chose Collingwood, they what happened?
Won the grand final.
Yeah, there yes. So I am a good luck charm. It's like, don't lose me. Otherwise, I'm going to go to someone else and they're going to win again. But obviously, I learned how to play the game. Can you give us a brief overview of how the game is played? Like, we'll probably put a visual up on once you drop this or something. But like, what are the rules?
So, so many rules.
No, well, there are different rules every single week.
No one knows. So
even the tribunal, they don't even know. They're just making up some shit. Oh, you can't push somebody in the back with the elbow, and that's a $15,000 fine.
That's pretty much it. That's
kind of what it is.
You should be the CEO. That's perfectly summed up. Yeah, so like it's played so much like, correct me if I'm wrong, but much like the NFL, it's played 4 quarters. So it's about 25 minutes plus add-on each quarter.
Yep.
The main thing is, to kick a goal. So you get 6 points for a goal.
And in the middle uprights.
In the middle, yeah. So there's 4 sticks, the 2 middle uprights, 6 points, and then you get a participation trophy if you miss it, and you get 1 point. Which is behind, yeah. So which is really nice. So goals and behind, unlike probably most other sports where they don't really have a 2-tiered point system that I can sort of think of.
I think that's in American football, because it's like you can score 6 points if you score a touchdown, or then and then the 1 point conversion if you kick it through the uprights.
Yep.
Or you can go for 2, which is like running it in.
Yes.
Or if you kick a field goal, then it's 3 points.
Yep. Yeah. So it's much like again.
Yeah, in that regard,
a bit of a hybrid of everything, but yeah, the main goal is to just get into goals. Obviously, high score sort of wins, but the skill that it takes to, because it's not so much tackling and starting and stopping, the skill it takes to, because they're athletes. They're not just big, burly sort of men that just tackle and stop and tackle and stop. They're running, upwards of 14 kilometers a game. So, and these guys are not just like 5'5". They're 6'2", 6 in Collingwood. We've got an American, Mason Cox from Texas, who's the tallest player. Big Coxie.
Big Cox.
Yeah, so the tallest player in the game at the moment.
Massive.
He's 2'11", so 7'2".
That
maybe?
man, like, not in the face, but he looks like Lurch.
He
is big.
Yeah, he's big. And
I knew you were gonna do it.
Not in the face though. We ain't saying you got a strong face, Mason Cox. So please don't start no beef with us.
Yeah,
it's just his tallness.
He's really
man.
tall. Yeah. And that obviously has its advantages, because the basketball, you have the tip off around the ground, the ruck contest. So every size has its place. Your smallest players are in the forward line, they're kicking the goals. Your tallest players are either in the ruck or they're defending.
Yeah, getting clearances.
It's incredible. I'm not doing it justice, but it's an incredible game to watch, and it's fun and exciting. Like because I'm a Taylor stan, I was very much on the Chiefs bandwagon during the Super Bowl and the playoffs and stuff like that. And when I get into sport, I really get into sport, so I really enjoyed it. But as much as it's really cool to see another sport being played, it's very like those games are just going for hours, and it's like there's only like 3 minutes of game time. It's like, with the football, some teams are scoring 140, maybe not 140 points at the moment, but, close to 110 points.
Basketball scores.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Basketball scores.
Yeah. So it's high paced, high energy, and with the MCG and with the grounds, you're so close to the action.
Yes.
So like when you're watching it at NFL stadiums or the NBA, you're sitting all the way up in the bleachers and you 100%. Can't really see it. This is you're so close that you can abuse the umpires and they can hear you. And they can
100. It's such a part of the game. Like, I could not believe some of the things that come out of people's mouths at these games. Like, usually you'll get like a heckle or two, like in the States, you will, but it's not like it is on the same level here. People are like, oh, your mother's your sister, you fucking dog cunt. Like, it is just, man, it is ruthless.
And yeah, just anything to put off an opposition player, especially if they're like sort of lining up for goal. But it's fun, and I highly recommend if anyone listening hasn't watched it, jump on YouTube, check out some highlights, and you'll be converted straight away. You'll be like, NFL, what? Like, it is just
You'd be into it.
Yeah, and it's a shame that the AFL hasn't done much to promote it outside of Australia to the world.
Yeah.
Like the rugby played a couple of games in Las Vegas, I think, which was really cool. So they filled up stadiums in Las Vegas at the start of the year. So that was cool. The AFL played a game in London in the early 2000s or the 90s. We played a game in China.
Oh, that's right, the Hong Kong game.
Yeah. A few years ago. So it could do so much more because it's such a beautiful sport and no one knows about it. And that's the shitty thing.
Yeah. No, it would be really nice to have like a little bit more. You know who it could have been? Because they need like a star. And I feel like the way that guys are here, it's all about being understated.
Yep.
Like, guys are like kind of quiet.
Yep.
This is a sweeping generalization, I realize. Because it's like with the NBA, it was like Michael Jordan. Yep. It was like the star that like put it on an international stage. I feel like with footy, that could have been Dustin Martin.
Yeah.
I felt like he had the looks, he had the appeal, but he is such a low-key guy.
Yeah.
He obviously does not like the attention.
And I think the whole thing with Australia as well, it's very much tall poppy syndrome.
Tall poppy, and then like,
look
don't
at that, making
brag
a return.
about yourself.
Yeah, making a return again. Tall poppy syndrome, everyone.
Especially with football. Like, one of the players in my team, Collingwood, Nick Dacos, he's 21. He's a baby.
Yeah.
In general terms, he's a baby, right?
Yeah.
And he is probably top 2 in the whole AFL. So at the moment, there might be 1,600 players running around. I think that's probably not it at all. It's probably closer to 1,000. But there's a lot of players, and he's top 2, and he does everything right. He's a midfielder, so he's getting the ball, getting the clearances, getting the most possessions. But one aspect of his game, which is, let's just say, like, I don't know, going in for a contested ball, so going into the, let's just quote unquote say scrum and extracting it, that's not his role. But people will say, "Oh, but he didn't do that." It's like, well, you're not going to, drive a Porsche through Broadmeadows, So why risk it?
Exactly.
So and it's just
he can't be everything.
Exactly. People just find things to knock these really good players down.
Yeah.
And again, that's why everyone is so low key, and we don't have those big ambassadors. But we could. But we Mason Cox might be when he goes back to the States after he retires.
Yeah.
He could be a good mouthpiece for it.
He could be a really good ambassador. I feel he also has the personality as well, but he's not like overbearing in a lot of ways. So yeah, shout out to Mason Cox. Yeah, because I think he would have played. God, was that 2017? That would have been that West Coast game. That would have been like his first thing.
Yeah.
And he probably didn't even realize how big of a moment it was.
Yeah, so he debuted on Anzac Day.
On Anzac Day,
So,
man, that's massive. That's a big game here. That's like the Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, exactly
home.
right. Yeah. So he debuted on Anzac Day, he kicked his first goal kicked his first goal on Anzac Day.
Goal too.
Yeah.
Oh,
the first goal of
were
the match
mad.
as well.
Oh, they were mad.
An American kicking a goal on Anzac Day.
That's
It's
hilarious.
Just insane. It's just insane.
Great.
Yeah, so he did that. Then the grand final. He was actually on 60 Minutes in the States. They did a whole thing about him. So he's starting to get a little bit of traction. But once with football commitments, because it's a full-time job, once that sort of goes, hopefully, because I think the Americans would eat it up. Like it's.
I genuinely think so. I genuinely think so. But also, without pivoting too hard, you know a lot about footy, Nicole. For someone who's only been here for a couple of years.
I do.
Why is that?
Oh my gosh, my partner. I am just inundated with sports day in, day out. Even when I'm like not paying attention, when I'm reading
Passive.
my scripts or I'm doing my beauty stuff or whatever, because I'm just like, I need to do something else other than sports. Through osmosis. Through osmosis. But yeah, it's here in such a big way. And then like my partner, he works in like sports bet and wagering and everything. So he looks at numbers and sports all day and he loves it. He's like a little pig in mud and he loves it. But I'm glad that we're able to sit here and have a very constructive discussion. Civil, dare I say? I say, because the beef between Collingwood and Carlton goes back for like whatever kind of knowledge I have of footy. It seems to go so deep, because I remember when I first moved here and my partner was like, You could pick whatever team you want to go for. Or whatever club you want to barrack for. Yeah. That's what they say.
Because rooting means fucking here, so you can't say who you're rooting for. I'm like, what did you say to me?
Yeah, exactly. But then again, hey, we're pro-ho.
Absolutely.
And I was told that I had the freedom to choose whatever club I wanted to go for. And I was like looking at some team colors, and I was like looking at some players as well. I thought Tippa Woody, I thought he was like really cool, like really fast. I always want to cheer for a brother. And then I was wearing a lot of black and white back in the day. And I was just like, oh, this Magpie team, they seem pretty cool. And my future mother-in-law was just like, if you go for that team, Nicole, you can't sleep in this house. And she was dead serious. And I was like, you know what? Let's cut out the middleman. Let's just go exactly to the destination you need me to be. I need to be a Blues supporter. I need to be a Carlton supporter, which is totally fine, because it was the same thing with my partner. I told him that he had to be a Cowboys fan because my family were all Dallas Cowboys fans, and he had a San Francisco beanie, and that's kind of a similar kind of beef between
the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers and the Cowboys back in the day, because they were really good in the NFC, and like during the 90s they were both like these two like titans going at each other, and there were times where the Niners would win and keep us out of like the Super Bowl, and we would win and we keep the Niners out of the Super Bowl, or it would come to the two of us being in like the NFC Championship to decide who goes to the Super Bowl. So it was very that beef runs deep. That beef runs really deep. But yeah, sports is funny.
Yeah, and you said at the start that it's very tribal, and these,
it goes deep.
Yeah, these two teams, it's always bigger. Like in the 70s and 80s, sport was just violence, right? It was just glorified wrestling at one point, and that's when spectators got involved, and it was crazy, and that's when Carlton and Collingwood were very good. Just in general, So they were always playing each other in finals, grand finals. I think the last final we played against Carlton might have been the 80s, so before my time.
Wow.
Because since then, either Carlton have been really bad and Collingwood have been good, Collingwood have been bad, Carlton have been good. And now it's taken, nearly 30, 40 years. We're both good. And that's a dangerous thing for Victoria. It's a very scary prospect.
In the streets.
Yeah. But it's very tribal, and so I didn't really come from, like I said, I didn't come from a footballing background, so I wasn't around it. But if you talk to Collingwood supporters or Carlton supporters that are like generational supporters, you'll talk to someone's dad, be like, yeah, we hate Carlton or we hate Collingwood because in 1978 we were at the ground and one of their players hit our player, and then the fan spat on me and there was a brawl, and so it's just like lingering sporting trauma to to the kids and the grandkids, because now
generational trauma,
exactly right, because like now you'll say, oh, why do you hate Collingwood for? It's like, oh, just because.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean? Like,
it's them, you know.
You know what I mean? So
don't make me say it.
Because dare I say, there's like a stereotype about every single fan group.
Yes.
There's like a stereotype about every single fan group, because I know that the Blues are supposed to be. There's like a lot of Italian and Lebanese. In the group. In the
fan base.
The fan base. And they're known to like. To fight dirty. But then again, maybe that's the same thing like Collingwood. I feel like that's where all my Greek friends.
The Ferals and we were the Ferals, and look,
that's what I heard. Yeah.
I guess like the elephant in the room is that Collingwood, and I guess a lot of the clubs in the 70s and 80s, but Collingwood, because we're the biggest sporting club in Australia, we're sort of the front page. We sell the papers and stuff. So the fans back then and the club itself were pretty bad. Come from a lot of racist undertones and stuff like that, and we've done a lot of work to sort of be better and do better. The only one out of the 18 clubs to do an internal report on how we treated First Nations people, Indigenous people, and we've done a lot of things right since then to sort of help that and field that, and so that's really good. So that's sort of bridging what we did in the past. You obviously can't.
You can't undo that. You can't erase the past.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't erase the past, but you can
acknowledge
it and prepare for the future and be present with everyone. So that's what we're doing now, and it's a really good place to be. And but it was really bad back then. I
remember watching like old clips of like St. Kilda fans, and they're just standing there because I guess AFL has kind of gone through a bit of a makeover in the sense because it used to be so violent back in the day, like amongst the fans, and they're realizing that we need to start on the younger generation and we need to make these games safe enough for people to bring their kids to.
Yep.
But I remember Kilda fan, like a clip on YouTube of a St. Kilda fan standing there with his ankle deep in like empty beer cans. Like this guy obviously brought them in with him. He put them in his coat and he is so drunk and he's so mad at the umpiring. I feel like that's a reoccurring theme as well.
Yeah.
And he just screams, he's like, I hope you die in a car accident. Like, I was like,
Oh my
whoa.
God.
He's saying this and he's screaming this and it's just like, yeah, that's just a part of the game. And then, but now you can dob people in. You can text the number for antisocial behavior.
Yeah.
So if anybody's acting.
And we know Australians are snitches. So
Ooh, they love
we
it.
know
They
Australians love
love
to
to
snitch.
snitch.
I know that number gets worn out.
Got on speed dial. I'm like, you know what? I don't like the way you looked at me.
Yes, I know that. Yeah, I know that comes through, but it's understandable because if they really want things to continue with the younger generations, they have to make it safe enough for a family to go there and enjoy the game all together and not necessarily be this like male, you know,
Exactly right.
testosterone dominated kind of thing, even though it is, but you know, walk it back a little bit, guys.
Yeah, it's gone through a real reform at the moment, and
Yeah.
you're right. They are putting sort of families first, and it's a lot to do with the way it's sort of umpired. And you know, we look at concussions as a big thing at the moment, so it's about the tackling and getting everything right. And the thing is with sport and with life, politics, everything in general, you're not going to make 100% of the people happy.
Correct.
Right? You just have to make the majority happy, and,
Yeah.
and the rest will either fall by the wayside, or they'll come along for the ride, or they'll just keep hating. You know,
Yeah.
you got to do. Got to do what you got to do for the majority. So, like, in saying that, with making it family first and stuff, the way they bring sort of like the Oz kickers through, the way, you know,
little kids.
yeah.
The Oz kickers are the little kids who come out and play during like the halftime.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, with two
Yeah.
little babies. They're so cute.
There's little there, like, and there's a bunch of little games happening at the same time. They're so cute.
It's so cute, yeah. So making it like family first in that sort of sense, and also, you know, we're not seeing like a lot of, or pretty much any off the ball hits or any big brawls or scuffles, and
That's
because
actually
these,
really true.
the players are role models, and if they don't want to be or not, that's not up to them.
Yeah.
Right. So
You're
you're
the
gonna
public
have
eye now.
exactly. You're gonna have kids at Auskick or you know at school who have got Nick Dacos' number on his back. So anything he does in and out of football, they're going to be scrutinized. They're going to be looked at. So it's starting to become really family first, and people don't like that. People don't like, okay, but back in the 80s, we used to be able to knock people out and they could come back and play. It's like, well, we're not in the 80s anymore. Like,
There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that were happening in the past that weren't great until he was like,
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't be retiring at 25 because I don't have my brain capacity.
Exactly
like,
right.
Maybe these things shouldn't be a thing. One of the things I wanted to go back to, and I'm really glad that you brought it up, was like that addressing like the racism and like things that are popping up, because that is going to be an ever-present thing. Australia is a racist country. They can't pretend it is not.
Yep.
But it's really just about people who are making an effort to do better and grow from things. Like, I think that's one of the things that's really funny, because I am not a super fan. Like, I know enough about the games. I got into footy when my work started doing footy tipping, and like it was a reason for us to like, waste time at work. Like, hey, who are you tipping today? Who's going to play? And we got to, again, in the working episode, we'd spend so much time not working. But I love it. I love it here. I'm here for it. But like, footy tipping, learning who's playing who for what. When I switched from Melbourne to Collingwood, they're like, oh, you know, they did X, Y, Z. They did this, this. I'm like, okay. Yes, and like if you want to say that Collingwood is racist, is Australia better as a whole? Like, or what's happening here? Like, if you're going to pick your battles, how did the yes note fail so badly? If we're talking about racism, what are you doing to? Are you just you're talking shit because you like this game?
Yeah.
So let's pick a lane. And one of the things that I really liked was like a year or two ago is you were like pretty actively involved in helping the Hollywood Pride organization
Yes.
start up. Like, how was that process?
So football in general doesn't do a lot for the queer community or the pride community. The AFLW, which is our women's league, so our professional women's league, do a lot. They have a whole pride round.
Yeah, that's cool.
The women in that league are more upfront with who they're dating and who they're married to, and you see it all the time, and it's beautiful. There's still obviously naysayers, like we said, people who want to
Yeah.
go back to the 70s
Bigots.
and 80s,
Yeah.
when it was just white people playing the game, white men. So
Yeah.
you know, it's never going to be like that. But yeah, with Collingwood, with the sort of the men's team, talking with this one supporter, Anton, who is a part of the queer community, and we just wanted to, start a pride group. Collingwood was the only team without a pride supporter group. So we did have one back in either the 90s or the early 2000s called the Pink Magpies. They disbanded. Everyone else sort of had a pride group, and we were like, oh, let's just start one. Like,
Oh,
you know,
that's fab.
So we started one. It started to kick off. We marched in midsummer, maybe not last year, the year before.
Yep.
And now it's grown to like a small sort of tight knit group, which is really nice. I don't want to call them out, but Collingwood don't really do much to help us at the moment. But we're part of some festivals and stuff, and part of the AFLW Pride rounds and stuff, which is really good, which is really cool. So yeah, I love being an ally, and like I said, sort of anyone who listens to me talk, it's not about being an ally when no one's listening. I've got a platform now and a community that I'm trying to foster better ways of thinking. And I remember when I put up that Pride post of me in my Collingwood gear with a Pride flag. Oh man, I'm a straight white guy, and I was copying it. I couldn't imagine what queer people cop on a daily basis, like 24/7. So it was heavy for me, and I'm not a part of the queer community. So any sort of little thing to sort of help out, and that was a good start, and sort of gaining a bit of traction, and it'll gain a little bit more traction when the AFLW season starts, because that's when the football community says, oh, actually,
it's more progressive.
We can do
more
that.
Progressive. Yeah.
Once again, the girls are putting it on the back. Yes. It's a recurring thing.
Naturally.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to bring it back to when we were talking about like the sheer physicality of footy and how it's insane that they're out there running around with like no helmets, no padding, no cups or nothing, Jesus. Because recently, I guess this was a few weeks ago or maybe like a few months ago, a player on Melbourne, Petrarca.
Yes. Yep.
Don't tell me Petrarca got hurt. That's my baby.
Oh.
Did he lose a testicle? Was he the one who lost a testicle?
No.
No, but it's one of those games because like the mentality of it, you see, it's like it was a big hit.
Yep.
It was a big hit. It looked brutal. I think he caught a knee in the side. He caught a knee in the side. Gets back up. They obviously like go off. They're running the protocol. They're like, hey, are you all right? And the mentality of like a footballer, they're just like, no. Like, I need to stay on. The game is on. I need to stay on. Okay, they let him go, and then he starts just going downhill so quickly. He's gasping for air. He's clutching at his side. They finally bring him back, and it turns out he's ruptured an organ.
Yeah.
Like, he ruptured...
And punctured lung and everything.
A punctured lung, ruptured spleen, and the fact that he was attempting to play through it was probably one of the most shocking displays. Like, people got very upset, and rightfully so. But at the same time, if you're saying to a player, like, hey, man, we probably need to check that out.
Yeah.
What's going on? And he's like, no, I can play through it. It's kind of hard because it's like a grown-ass man. What are you going to do? Like,
and that adrenaline was absolutely brushing. You're running around. It's fight or flight in those situations. And it was like, your body's like, no, I can do this. I'm fine. You're so used to being a little bit hurt. Or like, I'm just sore. It's just, I'll stretch it out.
But like,
rub some dirt in it.
He's done. He's done for the season. But it actually could have been a lot worse because a spleen laceration, I think, goes up to at least like a 5 grade, or maybe 6. I apologize to the medical community for not knowing exactly.
I think you're doing amazing.
But he was at a 5.
Yeah.
He was about to lose an organ. And had they waited any longer than what they had already waited, this guy was actually going to be on death's door.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad it was. And then, of course, the doctors came under fire. And I guess it's like, got to have somebody.
Yeah, you got to throw somebody under the bus.
Got to have somebody because, I mean, like, but it also feels like the game is always forever changing.
No, 100%. And I was because it was a Collingwood game.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so who
did it?
Yeah.
Darcy Moore, actually. So, because it's very much see ball, get ball.
Yes.
And it's very like put your sort of life on the line.
Yeah, 100%.
They're going back with the flight of the ball to take the mark. So in this contest, it was Petrarca was just standing there waiting for the ball. Darcy Moore, sort of one of our players, our defender, comes over the top to try and spoil the ball. And in this game, you can just use your knees into the back of people's heads just to get higher and hit the ball or
climb in the ladder.
Parkour.
Yeah, exactly right. And in this case, he put his knee went into his Petrarca's ribs, spleen, lung, and the whole thing was the doctors taking him off, and everyone's like, "How did you not know? How did you not know?" And it's like you said, Ri'chard, lots of adrenaline. Sometimes they give them stuff that they can sort of
little smelling salts. And things?
Something to just get them up and going.
Yeah,
aspirins or whatever it is, painkillers.
Play through the pain.
Exactly right. Yeah. And when someone says, "Yeah, I'm good to go," they haven't got X-rays in their eyes. These doctors.
No.
The concussion test different because they take them to the rooms, 20 minutes off. They got all these sort of things they can do. There's no spleen. There's no spleen test.
There is no spleen.
So now there's sort of calls for the MCG or these bigger grounds to have maybe an X-ray, have maybe an MRI or something there. Because
the games are always there. There's so many games near. Like, it would not be a financial loss to have one.
Exactly right. And even if it saves one person, because I think he got rushed straight to the hospital after he came off the second time.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't even stay at the ground. He's like, I'm actually done.
Yeah, no, it was like you
it.
literally saw like the life starting to drain from his face, and you're like, this can't be good. And then it turns out, it's like lacerated spleen, internal bleeding, like time is ticking on this guy's life. But I guess I can appreciate the fact that the AFL, even though it feels like new rules are always popping up and stuff, at least they're trying to protect the players a bit more.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. They're the money makers, right? So if you don't have players, you don't have the game. Sport, and everyone's just riding in the streets.
But I always thought it was also really funny because, like, in the States, basketball players, football players, baseball players, they obviously are like in the almost like the 1%, if not the 1%. You never see these people. However, when you live in Victoria, you'll actually see players like walking down the street or getting a beer or like going to like a cafe or something. You're just like, you're so closely.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane how close you can get to these people.
100%. Like, I don't know who's the most paid player at the moment, but I know he's probably only on like $1.5 million a year. And that's nothing to scoff at.
I don't even know what guys get paid here. I don't even know what they get paid here.
Yeah,
it's so hush-hush.
I'd have to look it up, but I think the average is about $250 maybe.
250K.
Yeah. Because some players like the rookies or the draftees, they'll get match payments. So it'll be, okay, you play this game, it's $4,000 a match or whatever it may be. The big guys like Nick Dacos or, but they're signing a yearly contract. So 5 years, it's 1.1 a year, $800,000 a year. But then the guys in the States, they're getting like 80 million a year.
Yeah. They're getting millions.
It's just crazy. And at the sport, because it's such a big population in the States and the sport is so big, broadcasters, there's so much money in it. And it's a brand, like it's a worldwide brand as well,
100%.
like the soccer as well. Coming full circle to what we were talking about earlier, maybe if it was worldwide, you could see players getting 10 million a year. But you go to Coles in Collingwood, you're going to see 12 players buying roast chickens.
I live in Collingwood. Honestly, they're on special holding 7 chickens. I'm like, that's a footy player.
That's so real. And it's just, I kind of, again, don't necessarily have the knowledge behind it, but I think like NFL players have to hold out a lot of the times because there's a joke that NFL stands for not for long. Like somebody could have one really good season, like a really good season, and then like after that you get the tape on the player, and then and then you're back into the grappling of it. But the injuries are insane.
Oh, so serious.
The concussions are out of control. So these players are just like, if I'm ultimately going to have problems down the road, which I'm pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
People don't walk away from NFL.
They're like, you better pay me my cheddar. You better pay me what this is worth because I'm literally putting my brain and my body on the line. And so I kind of get why these guys have to hold out for bigger things. But it's always been funny to me how they're like low-key celebrities. They're like not really celebrities.
Local
like,
celebrities, homegrown heroes, if you will.
They're not. Like I think like the only time that I really get to see which ones are the stars is that they do this thing called the Brownlow here.
Yes. Yep.
Which is at the end of every game, every match.
Like the voting?
Yes, the umpires. The umpires. And how many umpires are there?
So
6?
there's 4 on the field.
4 on the field.
And then there's a couple like on like a boundaries and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah, but they're only the 4 on the field vote.
So there's 4 umpires on the field, which we would call referees in the States. And they vote for who they thought was the best player in that game. For both teams or just the winning team?
Just both teams. So they go 3-2-1. So 3 being the most votes. So out of so there's 18 on the field. So there's 23 players for one team in a game. So out of the 46 players, you have to pick 3 who you thought performed the most. So usually it's who got the most disposals, who kicked 6 goals in a game.
Who scored the most, and who was absolutely downright scrappy and being what the game is about.
Yes, exactly,
then at the end of the year, of the footy season, they'll count up all the votes and and that's when you get to see like all the players in their best dressed and just getting absolutely shit-faced on live TV to find out which one of them wins the Brownlow. But it's a highly esteemed...
It is,
recognition.
Yeah. So the best and fairest.
Best and
Of
fairest.
the league. Yeah. Does the NFL or anyone sort of do that in the States?
I would
To my knowledge?
say the closest thing it would be like the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Like that's as close as it would be, but it's not in the sense of we're giving this the MVP. Like you'll have like, the defensive MVP
Right.
or offensive MVP, and then you get Coach of the Year as well.
Oh, so it's not just one player. Like,
I mean, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Like there is an offensive player of the year. There's like the rookie of the year as well. But to be honest with you, it seems a little more politicky. Sometimes it doesn't seem as like organic and transparent as things are here. It's like, you know, like you can go back to that game. You could be like, oh yeah, this guy was really great. Like in the States, it's more of like sweeping narrative of this player. It's like, yeah, and he's from this background and he's from the trailer park and his mama only had one leg. Like they create like this narrative, like shout out to one-legged mamas. You're holding it down. But like they just like to have like a sort of narrative about that. And then if you fit within this kind of Cinderella story, I think that's who it ends up going to. So I think it's more narratively based than it is on actual
merits, performance, and
which
who's
is
going to sell us more things later on. It's like, oh, look at this story,
100%.
underdog, yay,
which is very different. So like the Brownlow, like you're saying, Nicole. So the umpires at the end of the game come together, say who's the best, 3, 2, 1 for every single game. So there's 9 games in a round. There's 24, 25 rounds now. So that's every single game they're doing that. It goes lock and key, so no one sees it until the night of the best and fairest.
Yeah, that's cool to me.
I love that because then you're like, oh, so-and-so's winning. I'm not going to give him any points.
Totally,
so
exactly.
That's definitely something I was thinking about because like it's good that you mentioned that as well. But one of my questions, we mentioned Victoria a lot because like there is a ridiculous amount of Victorian teams. Would you like to talk about that? Because like I have a general idea that footy started here, but then
correct.
And then the team just kind of like, we want to play too. It was like, why? Who do you know here?
Pretty much. So like we sort of alluded to at the start, started in the 1850s in Victoria. It was massive in Victoria. Then it starts like going around to the other states, but the professional league was the VFL. So it was all Victorian teams, but other states have their like, you know, the Sandful, which is the South Australian Football League, the Waffle, which is the Western Australian Football League.
Waffle, they should have kept that one.
So every sort of state had it, and then in the 90s, the AFL wanted to expand, or the VFL wanted to expand interstate, so to become a national competition. And then in the 80s, everyone was sort of just putting their applications through of okay, we've won 16 premierships in the Sandful. We want to sort of put our name up, or we're going to be 2 clubs that come together and merge and be sort of this. So in 1990, it went from the VFL to the AFL. And then, you know, we started seeing teams from Western Australia, South Australia, you know, and but in saying that, teams from Victoria started losing money. So it wasn't near as profitable as it is now. So we had the South Melbourne Swans. So they lost their money. They went up to Sydney. Fitzroy, which was like one of the biggest clubs.
Is that the Lions?
The Fitzroy Lions. Yeah, lost all their money. Brisbane had a team called the Brisbane Bears, which was like a koala bear. So they started losing their money. So Fitzroy Lions merged with the Brisbane Bears and they became the Brisbane Lions. So lots of teams were merging or sort of falling away in the VFL. Then becomes the AFL and a lot more viable because it's a national competition now. And that's why, you know, interstate teams and players say it's an unfair advantage that, you know, we play so many games in Victoria and it's like, but the MCG holds 102,000 people. When you've got the biggest stadium in Australia, of course you're going to play the most games here.
Where is he at? After you.
So, sorry, I was just going to say that I think the MCG, I think they say it's like the largest stadium in the Southern Hemisphere. At least that's what the legend says.
I mean, that's what Taylor broke her record of the largest concert by filling up the MCG. And like that's her large concert ever. So it's just like if you build it, they will come. And because it started here, of course, it's going to be most people here. It's really funny. Anytime the grand final is happening, when it's all over, somewhere in the city is blowing up. Like, because there's like most of the teams are still here. They may have like a lot of people are still diehard Swan fans, even though they're not in Sydney. Diehard Brisbane fans, even though they're not there anymore. But 9 times out of 10, if it's Richmond, if it's Collingwood, if it's Carlton, if it's Melbourne, anytime the grand final happens, shit's going down.
100%.
And we actually haven't talked about that because this episode will air right the day of the grand final.
Oof. Yeah.
Would either of you like to make any predictions on who will be there? Are you afraid?
So as we're sitting at the moment, so before the Carlton Collingwood game tonight, Collingwood, I think it's about a 10% chance to make the finals. So we're probably not going to get there. I wouldn't mind seeing the Western Bulldogs or someone like Fremantle get up.
The Dockers.
I love their purple. I love the Dockers.
Fremantle, well, obviously from Fremantle, haven't won a premiership in the 20, I think the close to 20 plus years that they've been in the AFL system.
Oh, wow.
Another interstate team that sort of started. So I'd love to see them get one. I love an underdog.
Yeah.
Anyone but Carlton at the moment. So
Yeah.
I'll take anyone. I don't care who it is.
They'll talk shit forever. So it's just going to be a whole back and forth.
No, I get that. It's just like Carlton had such a good start to the year, and it seemed like they were like peaking like early on, but now for like the past month or so, they think they've lost like 3 out of the last 4?
Yep.
Yeah, 3 out of the last 4. So it's just like, and it doesn't seem like they're even changing their game plan. They're just like, that's all right, boys, get back out there and do what we've been doing.
Toxic
and
boyfriend.
It's just like toxic boyfriend. They're not switching any shit up. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I probably maybe would have said Essendon. It would have been like pretty fun to see them in there, but they've just gone completely off the rails. They're completely done.
Yep.
North Melbourne, I'm convinced, is a cursed.
Right down the
Roos.
I think the Roos are cursed because I've never seen a team go up by like 60.
Yes, yeah.
60 points, lose a 60-point head start, and then just like kind of crumble. And then they had that close game of Carlton a few weeks ago, and Carlton didn't even really deserve to win it. So I don't know. It's just, I guess it's anybody's game, which is pretty exciting.
That's the most exciting about this season.
That's what's been that's what's so good. It's like each year, yes, there's like a dominant team, but it's not like in the NFL where it's like you always know like the Patriots, you always know that like there's going to be like certain teams that are always going to be there. So it's a nice shakeup. But I did want to bring up the one thing that they do here that they do not do in the States is each club has a song.
Yes, yeah.
Each club has a song, and they always sing it at the beginning. They sing every team's song at the beginning, and then at the end they sing the winning team's song. And I just cannot get around it. I just can't get around the songs. And I love music.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nicole loves music, so you sing, I'm like, I'm not about it. I'm like, oh.
It's just like nobody likes anybody else's song. You just like your own club's song. But it just makes me question sometimes because there's the Collingwood Magpies, Richmond Tigers, Brisbane Lions, the Blues. What's the Blues? Like, you know what I mean, Carlton?
It's a feeling.
It's macaroni and cheese. I don't.
Not blue cheese.
Yeah, they're like, because we are the Navy Blues. And I'm like, what are the Blues, man?
Yeah, it is weird that sort of no one else sort of does that, like the soccer or anything. No one else does that. Like, I don't know if this is a controversial take or not, but I
Bring it in.
kind of halfway with what you're saying about the theme songs. I feel like the theme song shouldn't be played at the start of the game. I feel like that's
That's weird.
Just like,
It's
I love
weird.
I love the college football. I don't know if the NFL sort of do it, but I love the college football sort of experience where these guys have just got drum lines and shit, just
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
cheerleaders.
Yeah.
They're doing like Enter Sandman. They're walking out. There's fireworks. You know,
Don't.
you know what I mean? Like,
Enter light.
so cool. Like, what? It's so funny. Like, the contrast here is Collingwood. I think they still do it now. They walk out to the start of "Lose Yourself." The instrumentals like dun 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 dun. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. But then at one point,
spaghetti.
yeah, you know what I mean. So like at one point, it's all like if it's a night game and the "Lose Yourself" sort of playing, it's like dun 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 dun, and then all of a sudden there's fireworks and dun dun ba 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 ba. It's like.
It takes you out of it.
Are you kidding me?
It takes you right out of it.
Oh, with some tiger
You know what I mean? It's like
tiger land.
it's an elimination final. I'm getting pumped up, and then I hear a trumpet burst my
Yeah.
fucking eardrum.
Oh man, it's so terrible. You know who has the worst song though? Nothing has pissed me off more than, I guess it was 2017, 2018 or whatever, when that grand final happened, and I had to hear the West Coast Eagles song. And I was just like, you know, whoever wrote that song was just like, guys, I got it. I got it. I'll write it. What, in a few weeks, you guys, I got it. And then a few weeks passes, and whoever wrote the song was like, oh shit, we got that meeting tomorrow. I was supposed to write the team song. He goes into the meeting. He's like, oh yeah. Drop that beat. We're the Eagles. We're the Eagles. We're the Eagles. We're flying high. We're the Eagles. We're the Eagles. I'll tell you why. And I'm like, fuck. What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. God,
Yeah.
Weird Al Yankovic has written better parody songs than whatever that's supposed to be.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's a lot of
It's just shocking.
Yeah, there's a lot of shocking. The actual West Coast Eagles one was not rewritten. It was reimagined, I guess, by
Lord have mercy.
Birds of Tokyo. Do the new one, I'm pretty sure.
Oh
Great.
no.
I'm pretty sure it's Birds of Tokyo that do the.
Love it.
And everyone hates it. So, but there's a couple of them that just sort of take you right out of the experience. But it's at the end of the game. I think it's fun. Like everyone,
Yes.
like there's a stadium of 100,000 people singing the Collingwood theme song or whatever it may be, especially when it's a home game. But I think that if it's an away game, so if it's like Collingwood Carlton, so tonight's Collingwood Carlton, it's Collingwood's home game. If Carlton win, there shouldn't be no theme song. You're the away team. You don't get to celebrate at our home ground. What are you talking
I don't want to hear that shit.
You don't get to celebrate
Play
at our
that
home
shit in your
ground.
car on your way out.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then, like some of the songs, we recognize them. They're like old patriotic
Yes.
songs.
Yes.
Like you're a grand old flag,
Yes.
you're a high flying flag.
Flag.
And that's I can't remember who
That's
that is.
Melbourne, yeah.
That's Melbourne. And then
The Saints is when the Saints go marching in.
And
That's,
then the
that's,
Saints-
that's not even a lyrical change. That's just like,
Oh, when the Saints go marching in.
And then who else was the other one? I didn't realize until I was watching the Olympics recently that one of the teams is like the French national anthem.
yeah, I think
It made me so mad.
Yeah, I think it's
I was
Bris-
like,
I
wait
think
a minute.
Brisbane, maybe?
I think it's Brisbane
Yeah.
Lions. And I was just like, is that?
We'll blame Brisbane for that because we're not going to
Oh
put
my-
Fitzroy on the
yeah,
on
not,
the, you know.
not Fitzroy.
They could never do anything wrong. They're actually holding the gates between Collingwood and Carlton, literally. Because
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking about the suburbs. Like, since they lost that team, they're like, well, I guess we're about to fight, buddy.
Man, oh man, it's just so, it's just funny. But it's like one of those things that it's just so inherently footy. They can never get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't.
And one thing that I should mention as well, the difference between our sport and sort of the world is that, well, with the NFL, they've got conferences, and even the
Yes.
NBA have got conferences.
Yeah.
We're just 18 teams, fight you at the top of the ladder, whatever it may be. So there's no sort of conferences. Also, a lot of teams nowadays don't have home stadiums by themselves. So the MCG, that's the home ground for like Collingwood, Hawthorn, Melbourne. So then some other teams will sort of play there. But so you don't really have home ground advantages anymore to a sense. Like
Yeah.
in Western Australia, you will, Brisbane, you will. But especially Victoria, there's like, I think I want to say off the top of my head, 11 teams.
Yeah, I was thinking
over
that.
2 stadiums. 3 if you count Geelong, but no one counts Geelong.
Yeah, no
so,
one counts
No one counts
so two
Geelong.
so two stadiums. So there's no real home ground advantage like there is in, like you go into like Packer Stadium, whatever the
Yeah.
fuck they call it. So there's not really that sort of, going to the Bernabeu, like Real Madrid Stadium. There's not that aura because everyone shares the stadium. It's like,
Yeah.
cool. No paraphernalia or like anything that says, this is Collingwood's home ground. There used to be when it was community football, when it was the VFL, when it only used to sit 30,000. But when Collingwood are getting 90,000 to average to a game, it's you can't really do that at Vic Park, the local backyard.
Understandably so. We actually didn't get a prediction from either of you because I just looked at the ladder. I'm just going to say some shit because it's going to come out and we'll just see who's the closest just for a little fun tidbit of like just pick 2 random teams who you think are going to be in the grand final.
Sydney Bulldogs and Sydney wins.
Okay.
I don't Sydney Schwannies. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Western Bulldogs. I feel like they're just I feel like they're always around.
Are you agreeing with that pair up? Like you think they're both also going to make it?
I kind of want to keep it within Victoria, I think, in my line of thinking, but I just cannot imagine what other team other than I can't think of another team.
It's a very interstate dominant top 8 at the moment.
Yeah.
Like they're really dominating.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And everybody's falling at the same time. There's going to be some desperate football.
Yes.
Especially tonight.
Especially tonight.
Especially tonight.
It's going to be a good final series.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, like, I'm contractually obligated to say the Blues, but I feel like every single year I just watch, I feel like every single year I watch the same thing. To be honest with you, granted, I know it may not sound this way, I'm really just not into sports anymore.
I was going to say, if you listen to this episode, Nicole, like I've just sat here just learning so much shit from the both of you. Like, I am still here, everyone. But I'm just
not.
like, what? And then they did what?
Yeah, I'm really not because it's just such a time suck. And I went through an experience back in 2017, I want to say, where I went to a Dallas Cowboys football game where they were playing the Green Bay Packers. My partner and I flew out as well as my parents because my parents are huge Cowboys fans. And we get there, and it is just an absolute battle. The beef between Green Bay and Dallas is so damn long. And it was like on a 3rd and 22. Dallas was finally winning. We were doing really well. It was Dak Prescott's first year because Tony Romo had gotten hurt. And it just seemed like the stars were aligning that we had this new kid. He was a gun, and we were going to the Super Bowl, which we hadn't been to. Yeah, which we hadn't been to in like almost 30 years. 3rd and 22, Aaron Rodgers, born under a lucky star. Don't know how this guy does it. He connects with one of his people. The guy falls out of bounds, and I could not believe it connected. It was like a 3rd and forever. It shouldn't have happened. It should have just been like, this is the end of the game.
Yeah.
He ends up converting that into a fresh set of downs, and they end up winning the game. I had never been so heartbroken in my entire life. We go outside. We hear sirens. There is a tornado on the ground. We are being told to evacuate the area as quickly as possible. Ooh. But you know when you're in that sports sadness that you're just like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what happens to me now. And I'm just standing there. I'm like, let the nader take me. I'm ready to meet my maker. I don't know why I turned into a WCW. Listen here, brother. I don't know why, but that's just like the way I'm going through. And then, and my partner's like, what are you, insane? No, like get in here. And we go to the CC's Pizza, which is the pizza buffet. And they've closed us in there. And we're like, hey, can we purchase the, ticket for the buffet? And they're like, no, we're not taking money right now. Because they didn't want to open the drawers because they didn't want to get ransacked with all these rogue people in there. Yeah. And this guy in there was like, well, this is in Dallas, Texas, by the way. Yep. So everybody's got a gun. Tensions are high. And we just lost a playoff game. It was bad.
Your chance was better with tornado.
The guy was like, if y'all gonna keep me in here against my will, I'm taking the pizza. And then he goes over and starts shoving pizza in his face. And I'm like, are they looting? Are they looting the pizza right now? And I'm looking
and
at...
it's not even good, by the way. If you haven't had CC's Pizza, it's not good pizza. It's just there.
But shit was going down. It was dark outside. The wind was blowing. And then my partner is just like, well, if that guy's stealing the pizza, he gets up, he starts eating. And I'm like, well, I'm hungry too. I start eating some of the pizza. We got separated from my parents, so we went to the CC's Pizza. My parents went down to the Walmart. And
Walmart was a better option.
Walmart was insane. My mama said that people were losing their damn minds because they lost power. So when they lost power in the Walmart, they had to shut everybody down. Nobody's allowed to leave. This guy was like, you know what? I'm taking whatever I want. Started taking off his wet clothes, putting on brand new fresh merchandise that was there. Another guy was just like, well, if they're going to keep me in here, I'm going to take whatever I want. He goes in, he gets a rotisserie chicken, goes to the bread aisle, sticks his hand in, gets out a couple slices of bread, starts ripping apart the chicken, starts making himself chicken sandwiches, starts eating a pie with his bare hands. My mom is like, I could not believe it. Oh my God. I could not believe it. It was absolutely insane.
And nobody went for the rings?
And nobody.
Walmart has everything.
Walmart has everything.
Walmart has absolutely everything. They have guns in Walmart.
It's Dallas. They definitely had guns in that Walmart. So they were just trying to keep things cool. And then my cousin came and picked us all up, and we're driving back to the house we were staying at. We're driving through floods and pools and everything. And I was just like, I'm going to die. This is it. So I was like, you know what? I can never let sports make me feel like this again. Ever again.
No.
That was it. I was like, I can never let sports make me feel like this again. So ever since then, I've been emotionally unavailable to sports.
Nicole, that tornado played a huge role. It was not, the game lost hurt, yes. That was very upsetting. But a fucking tornado and people looting in Texas is the main thing. You're attaching your trauma to the sport.
I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for sports. I wouldn't be upset if it wasn't for sports.
I mean, if your family didn't love the Cowboys, you wouldn't have been in Texas in the first place. So maybe you can blame them. You can blame a lot of things, but blaming sports. I'm not team sports. To be fair, I'm not team sports. I'm just saying a literal tornado is a valid reason to be upset.
Listen. It is what it is because it just takes so much time and so much effort, and you probably only get, like I said, it's like the 80-20. 80% of it is absolute suffering, and then you get happy for a game, but then you're worried about the next game. Or then if you end up losing at the end of the season, you're like, fuck.
Yep.
That's it. So it's just like sports is such a big investment, and I refuse to emotionally let it have me like that anymore. Yeah. So that's it.
I envy people that don't follow sports as religiously as
yes.
I sleep so well at night.
I enjoy my weekends now. I enjoy my weekends.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm not footy tipping, I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, nothing's stressing me out. I'm just like, But for my random prediction, I'm going to say it's going to be the Dockers because the purple's pretty. and the Adelaide Crows, because you literally didn't speak about Adelaide a single time. And I feel like of all the underdogs, I looked at the thing like, they're okay. Like, they're okay. They're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the 8 though.
Yeah.
I said what I said.
Okay. I'll have to win every single game, so we'll see.
Well, then it'll just be the Dockers running there by themselves. I'm fine with it. But because we're getting close to time, I don't know if you had any other things you want to bring up, but I did want to give you more time to talk about Swoop Luke things before we wrapped up. Did you have any more questions or anything, Nicole?
No, I think my rants were pretty much.
After the tornado, I was like, I'm good now.
After the songs, I was like, I'm getting my shit in with the songs. I had to roast that right quick and then talk about sports. But yeah, I'm all good.
Well, yes, bringing it back to Swoop for a hot second, one of the things I wanted to give you an opportunity is to talk your shit and be in the moment. Because I know in our friendship, you've been like, oh, like I'm doing okay, I'm doing these things, but you've created a beautiful platform.
Thank you.
You're doing wonderful work with it. And I want you to talk your shit in this very moment. What are you working on? Also, from starting to nothing, how many followers do you have on your various things? Go ahead and shout it. Do the do. Flex on it, Luke.
Ri'chard, you know I hate talking about myself.
I know you do. Tall
As a
poppy
Leo, I
syndrome.
hate talking
We
about
don't
myself,
believe
so-
in this. We don't believe in tall poppy syndrome in the studio. So talk your shit right now.
Yes, like I said, so I started in 2019. It was very much, I don't care if I'm going to 1 viewer, 10 viewers, but at the moment, I'm sitting just above 8K on YouTube, which is nice. On Instagram, it's close to 35,000 followers. Facebook's 10,000. I think collectively it's about 60K fans all throughout. So sometimes I do need to give myself a pat on the back for what I've built. I can't find it in me to do that. Very much imposter syndrome, but I guess that's another episode. That's something I should talk to my therapist about. But yeah, it's very fun. The main platforms are YouTube and Instagram. So YouTube is very much talking to the camera, reviewing the match, previewing the match, tidbits here and there of other sort of videos. Instagram is it's 24/7. Like if, I'm notoriously on my phone. It's not talking to anyone. It's getting news for various things, especially on game day. Yeah. In my bag now, I've got 2 battery packs because during games, like, I'd love to go to a game where I can just watch the Pies play and just not worry about anything. But at the moment, it's like quarter time updates, halftime updates. If someone gets injured, if someone gets subbed off, if someone does this, it's constantly providing these updates because I've had some people from the States, some people are traveling overseas where it's like, oh, Swoop, you're my number one source for getting news. I met this girl, Claudia, shout outs. She was in Turkey and obviously no one's not real AFL there. You can't watch the game there. So she was using my account to get updates on the team and stuff. And I love that I can sort of bring that to people. So I feel not a responsibility because I still enjoy doing it. I guess it's somewhat of a responsibility as well.
Labor of love again.
Exactly right. Labor of love. And I love doing it. And yeah, it's fun interacting with those people, building a community or fostering a community of love and equality. And I'm very open about my sort of mental health battles on there as well. And it's not so much Collingwood centric. It's Swoop Luke. So it's me. So it's my personality. It's not just like, oh, Collingwood won a game, cool. And then the next post is Collingwood lost the game. It's like, okay, it's me in my stories. I openly talk about going to therapy, going back to therapy. And I had men message me and say, this is the push I needed. I've had that. Awesome. I had a lady, I don't know if I talked about this to anyone. I had a lady come to me and say, she lost her brother like 8 weeks ago from suicide. And,
my God,
that me talking openly about this will help a lot of people. So
100%.
Yeah, so it's stuff like that people don't see. I guess on Twitter and stuff. Not that I'm on it anymore, thank God.
Oh man, Twitter. We literally last week we were talking about how
the hell of Twitter.
Man, the cesspool.
Yeah, and it's sometimes not so much outspoken about the sport, but when you're biased with one team, just like if you're biased with anything and you put your opinion out there, there's always 12 people to shoot you down, and that's not good for my mental health. So other people sort of view it. Most opposition fans sort of view it, what I do in another light, and that's fine. Everyone's with their own opinion, but the stuff that no one sees is the DMs that I get, that are like paragraph long saying thank you and stuff like that. And actually, I want to give a shout out. So last year, I was at a game. I do this thing called swooping around, where it's like fan cams after the game. Go up with a microphone, talk to people. This lady came up to me with her 2 kids, and she goes, "Oh, I had to find you because my mum, Gwenny, absolutely loves you."
Oh my God,
yeah,
so
and she's
good.
like, she's like 86. She watches everything you do. I'm like, oh, what's her name? I was like, oh, to shout out to Gwenny. I'd hope to meet her one day. Let's get the premiership for her. So we ended up winning. And then a couple of months ago, I think it was after one of our games that we won, I was almost swooping around, and this old lady comes up to me. She goes, "Oh, I'm Gwenny." I'm like, "Gwenny, Like, oh my God, it's a callback to like this time last year, Gwenny. And I got to meet Gwenny in person. I got to have a chat with her, so it's all like documented on my YouTube channel, Instagram. And then a couple of weeks ago, I had Gwenny's daughter message me and say that Gwenny had passed away suddenly. And the message, you know, she was 86. She was on her deathbed, and her daughter told me in a message that she said that meeting me was one of her highlights of her life. I'm like, she's 86. And her daughter was saying that she watches all my videos. She loves how I talk about the boys, the positivity and stuff. So it's those little things that no one sort of sees that I don't shout out to the world that keep me going. When there's 1,000 negative things that come sort of at you, it's just that one spark. And that's why, I probably, a couple of years ago, I probably would have finished, because Swoop has had a lot of inverse negative effects on relationships and just life in general. So I probably would have given it away if not for these little sort of sparks of joy that I get from just random people that I would never have met otherwise. And it really keeps me going, and it's like a shot of adrenaline straight into my black and white veins.
That's a perfect tagline. And I can't speak for Nicole on this one, but I know that I personally want to thank you for your help in getting this podcast started. Because when we went on our trip to Bali, you were like just hyping us up, giving us all these ideas to actually make us do it. Because we talked about it for a year. We were like, we're going to get to it eventually. We're going to do it eventually. And then after that trip, you were just like, you got to do this, you got to do this. And you gave us all these pointers, and that was like the extra push that we needed to do this. So in no small parts, you were actively involved in this. We sent you some of the first episodes, and you were encouraging us to do these things and reach out to things, and like tax time. Like, I know that I'm going to continue to be asking you questions and doing all these things. So I, for one, am very grateful that you do this, that you continue to do this, and you are absolutely making an impact.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, it's really good. It's so beautiful that you find those moments of positivity, because that is what sports is. It's connection, and it's really lovely to see it. It'll connect like some of the youngest people to some of the oldest people, and it's like one of these things that you're able to like talk about, and the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep. Yeah.
You remember the game.
No, it's again, it goes back to what we said at the start. It's family, it's community, and it's a way to bring different people from different
all walks of
life together to fucking call an umpire a cunt. Like, you know what I
mean? You can't spell unity without cunt.
Real.
But I think that's a pretty good place to stop. Do you want to shout out your socials on all of your platforms so we can find you?
Yeah, cool. So just all my platforms, just Swoop Luke, one word. So Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, TikTok, all the usual places. You get your social media. But thank you for having me on. Privileged to be the first white guest.
Finally, the white guys get one on the board.
We did it, Joe.
I was wondering when they were.
And again, I just want to apologize for everything we've done in the past. So.
That's all right. Good on you for breaking the white ceiling here at Melbourne. Melanated in Melbourne.
Oh my God. Well, until next time, I'm Ri'chard.
And I'm Nicole.
And this has been Melanated in Melbourne.
See ya. This has been Melanated in Melbourne, a podcast that analyzes the Australian lifestyle from the lens of two Black American besties. Visit us at melanatedinmelbourne.com or follow us on Instagram to send us your comments or questions. Thank you for listening.